All right, many thanks, Alex. I want to bring in attorney and law professor Danny Karon now to dig into all of this a bit more. Danny, thanks for joining us. We'll get into the possible new indictment from Georgia in a moment, but I want to begin with the one from this week. Let's start with venue. Former President Trump and his attorneys don't believe he can get a fair trial in our nation's capital because of the city's political makeup. They've suggested moving the Jan 6 case to West Virginia. You can see, at least when you look at 2020, President Trump has a lot more support there. He won almost 70% of the vote there compared to just 5% in D.C. My question to you, Danny, what's the process here for advocating for a new venue? And does the defense have a compelling case to do so?
Well, right, Christian. It's a tough road to hoe. I mean, moving for a change of venue, it's a very, very high burden. He's got to prove it to the court's satisfaction that he can't get a fair trial in DC. That doesn't mean just saying so, it means proving why. Maybe running around town, counting up the number of dump Trump signs, counting up the number of folks who rallied against him at different protests. It's going to take a lot. And he doesn't want a fair trial, really. He wants an unfair trial in his favor in West Virginia. Think about it. He wants to do to the government what the government, he claims, is doing to him.
Yeah. Is this something that any other defendant would be afforded? I mean, is this typical for high-profile defendants making this claim that I can't get a fair trial here, so let's take it elsewhere?
Sure, you've got typical defendants who probably aren't going to request a change of venue. Why? Because nobody knows they're being tried. A change of venue triggers precisely because of what's happening here. Somebody really high profile doesn't think the community, a jury of his or her peers, can be arraigned in court. So he wants to go somewhere else where a jury of his peers will be biased in his favor. See, that's not a fair trial. That's just a different place for a biased trial.
Yeah. Just while we're on the point of venue, just a question here. In cases where, let's say, the venue has been changed, you said there's a high burden for making your case there. What does that look like? Does it actually look like counting voters in a jurisdiction? Does it look like counting, signs around town? I mean, what does that process actually look like?
Sure, that's what I suggested a second ago. His legal team's got to get really creative. What I came up with was trying to figure out who in DC, how many folks are biased against him versus are in favor of him. And obviously the numbers are really low because when you go to West Virginia, all 55 counties in the 2020 election went Trump's way. That would be a really easy, convenient place for him to be. And again, it's not just the jury he's worried about. He's worried about the judge. He wants to change from the judge too, because the judge is no friend of his, as history has proven.
Right. Let's turn to Georgia for a moment. Alex mentioned earlier that the details in a potential indictment there could overlap with what we saw from the DOJ this week. If that's the case, what's the purpose of the DA there pursuing another case? And could DAs in other states where Trump allegedly tried to overturn votes like Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, there were 7 of them, could they look into their own separate investigations?
They certainly could. We've not heard anything about it. We've only heard Georgia emphasized. I don't think there's going to be overlap between this January 6th indictment and an eventual Georgia indictment because prosecutors want to keep their cases neat and clean and compartmentalized. Trump, however, is probably going to try to conflate the two, wad them together, make things complicated and confusing because that's his playbook. So the different sides have very different litigation strategies.
Right. Attorney Danny Karon, many thanks for being with us. We appreciate you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. It was a pleasure. Thank you.